In this video, I'm going to teach you a key consulting methodology that is being used by almost all management consulting firms, including MBB consulting firms like BCG or Bain. But the best thing is you do not need to work in consulting to make use of this approach. It is helpful in whatever context you operate in if you are in a position to solve problems for your employer. In today's video, I'm talking about the theory and practice of hypothesis-driven problem solving. And trust me guys, this is really crucial. It is one of the most important concepts. So sit tight, listen until the end, because in the end I'm going to give you some nice practical tips as well. And let's do this together. Welcome to another coffee break here on this channel with me. My name is Heinrich, and on my channel Firm Learning I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. As you know, I started my own consulting career at Accenture. I worked for the company during my university studies, and then after university I joined McKinsey and spent 6 years with the firm, in the end serving as a project lead. So let's start by better understanding what hypothesis-based consulting actually is. And I have a couple of slides prepared for you guys, so let's jump into it. So what is hypothesis-based problem solving? So it is an approach to divide a project into tasks. It is a way of thinking, an approach to define the project scope and outcome, a prerequisite to focus data collection and analysis, an approach to solve unstructured and complex problems. So I hope this already gives you the impression and helps you to understand that hypothesis-based problem solving is really at the core of most consulting projects. But let's get a little bit more tangible. And to me it is important to stress that this is not only a process that is strictly limited to consulting, but you can pretty much use and apply it to every other business problem that you have. So what do we see here? And indeed it always starts with a business problem. There's a challenge that management of your company is facing. Maybe profits are down, maybe costs are exploding in a specific business area. And here now often this is a situation where companies then engage a consultancy to help them figure out the solution, or they also might task an internal team to look into it and to come up with solutions. And now to move from the problem to the solution, you will need to have facts, you will need to conduct analysis. And of course in this way, from problem to solution, you often already have some facts. There are some things that you already know, but of course there are gaps. There are things that you do not yet know, and that would be required to really verify a solution or just come up with it in the first place. And now what many young graduates, or also more unexperienced business professionals, will do is, well, they will say, until I have closed these gaps, until I've really looked at everything, until I really did my thorough research, no way I can come up with a solution until I did all of this, right? And this, my friends, is not the way how you should operate in the business world. This is more of an academic approach. You need to look into everything, you do all your research, and then maybe in the very end you can come up with a solution. But, and you will already know this if you have watched my video on top-down communication that I will link now here somewhere above, the key to being successful in business is always to already having some kind of goal, some key message, some key result already in your head. It is important to very early on in the process to have an hypothesis-based solution in your mind for the problem that you are now testing and analyzing for, instead of now starting with nothing and needing to look at everything before you can come up with the solution. So indeed what you will do when you follow this hypothesis-driven problem-solving approach is that from day one you close the gaps with hypothesis. So when you're faced with a business problem, now before starting to look into anything, before starting to conduct any analysis at all, ask yourself, what do I already know? And now what are the likely hypotheses that you can make? And based on that, what is your day one answer to the project? And once you've established such an hypothesized solution, then based on that, you can now test it, you can now refine it, and to in an iterative way come to a better solution. So let's look into a tangible example. Let's imagine there's a mobile payment service provider who wants to enter the Brazilian market. And as a consultant on day one, maybe you sit together with your team, maybe there's a more senior guy in the room, a partner, or some experts from the clients, and you just sit together and you ask yourself, okay, what is my hypothesis, what the answer should be, in which country the market entry is recommended. And now based on this very first session, on day one, you hypothesize 4 key factors. First, the growth. So you want to be in the market with the highest growth. Second, the affinity to mobile payment. So which markets are more affine to mobile payments than others. Third, the attractiveness of the offering. So for which countries do you have an attractive offering? And then fourth, where is competition? Where is small and little competition? So these are the factors that you believe are relevant. And now from your hypothesis, from your first knowledge that you already have, you believe that Brazil indeed might be a good fit due to these factors. But now, of course, this is only the start. And now indeed you need to collect the data. You need to look into it and understand and verify whether this is actually the case or not. So now you do conduct the research, and now you indeed find that Brazil, at least in terms of the market size, maybe not the growth, but in terms of the size, it is very attractive because it has a population of 200 million people, and all these numbers are just made up. And on top of that, Brazilians are also very open and interested in mobile payment, making it very interesting as well because the affinity is quite high. And maybe you were also able to confirm that actually your product offering is attractive to Brazilian customers, though in the end you came to the conclusion that no, in Brazil there is actually a lot of competition. There isn't little competition, so you see that now you need to cut out the point of little competition because you were not able to verify the hypothesis, but still based on these three factors that now you were able to confirm, you still feel confident in making the recommendation that the mobile payment service provider should indeed enter the Brazilian market for these three reasons. Now I hope that you already can understand why this hypothesis-driven approach is very helpful, because on day one you are asking yourself, okay, what would it mean for a country to be an attractive target for market entry? This now enables you to give a day one answer. So back to the top-down communication approach, if now the CEO walks in on day one and asks you what your current status, where do you stand with the project, you can already give a very first hypothesis without having looked into any data at all. And now once you move to the next stage, to the data analysis stage, now you do not need to look at everything, right? The only things that you need to look at are your hypothesis and try to verify or falsify your hypothesis, because you already know if you came up with a good and logical structure. So now let's break it down even further. How would this really look like? And indeed, at some point, management will confront you with an objective. So you need to ask yourself, okay, what does management actually want to achieve? Next step is to translate these management objectives into your project objectives. So again, doesn't matter if you're a consultant or just an internal team working on it. Ask yourself, what does your specific project really needs to accomplish? Then you're breaking down the project into its individual sub-parts, into its key drivers. Different consulting firms give different names to this. Some like to call it modules, others like to call it work streams, others just project areas, but you often like to break it down into different sub-areas that are relevant, and then often you staff every team member on one of these key areas, or maybe one team member also addresses two of these key drivers, but these are kind of the key areas that you look at and that you then structure the project in. And here now, of course, the MECE principle is super important. I talked about this principle in another video. I will link it also somewhere above here. The MECE principle is now the principle that you need to apply when you now break down the overall project into its subcomponents. Now, once you have defined the key drivers that will lead you to a result, now is the time when you need to come up with a hypothesis. And then once you've noted down your hypothesis, and of course some things you might already know, right? But for the things that you do not know yet, ask yourself, what are the key questions? What are the analysis that I need to do now in order to falsify or to verify my hypothesis? Because from this, you will know exactly what analysis do you need to do. This will also tell you what data you need to collect. So this really is now your roadmap for the project in order to get to the objective where you want to get it. And in this sense, now I hope that you recognize this two-tiered structure, this two-tiered approach of this hypothesis-based problem solving. So first, you structure the problem. This is really crucial. It is an essential part of the whole problem solving process. And this is also why consulting firms put so much emphasis on getting the structure right, on coming up with MECE structures, because of course, if you mess this up, then likely your whole analysis structure will be messed up and you will not get to the right results. So once you've completed your structure and you defined all your required analysis, this is then when you move to the second phase of your work, and this is really the whole analytical work. And based on these facts that you collected, of course, you will find some hypotheses to be true, so you verified them, but some other hypotheses now you need to reject. You will not find them to be true. And in this sense, now this is an iterative process that whenever you falsify an hypothesis, you need to ask yourself whether the conclusions that you hypothesized now are still valid. So if I take this hypothesis away, can I still defend my conclusion, or do I need to iterate and change it, revise my hypothesis, conduct some new analysis, and then review and update my conclusions and recommendations based on that? I hope hope this video was insightful. If you took any value out of this video at all, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my content. I release weekly videos every Saturday. In addition, if you really want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please leave a comment below in the comment section. This really helps me, and of course you can ask me whatever question you still might have, and I'm happy to answer every single question that you have. If you want to see even more content from me, follow me on my Instagram. My handle is Learning, and I also have a mailing list. You can sign up to that. There's a link in the video description below. I now want to take a moment to say thank you to all the members of this channel. Thank you so much, guys. You're really making a difference for me and supporting me and running this channel. And if you want to become a member as well, there's a join button next to the subscribe button. If you hit it, you get all the details and you will get access to some member only perks if you become a member. Again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. My name is Heinrich, and next Saturday I will be back with another video for you guys. Looking forward to that, and until then, good weekend to all of you.